The movie starts with a series of images from around the world depicting children being used as test subjects in the past. In the present, Dr. Beak visits a laboratory where a massacre has just occurred. The bodies are still moving, and she orders her men to aim for the head. Two children manage to escape from the facility and are pursued by Dr. Beak's men, including Mr. Choi. Mr. Choi captures one of the escaped children, but the other, a girl, remains missing. Dr. Beak orders Mr. Choi to report the girl to headquarters as decommissioned, assuming that she will eventually die on the run. A farmer in a nearby village discovers the unconscious girl and takes her to his home, where a doctor tends to her injuries. The doctor is concerned that the girl will suffer from memory loss and advises the farmer to adopt her. Ya-yoon grows up as the farmer's daughter without any recollection of her past. As a teenager, Ya-yoon tries to purchase cow feed but has no money to pay for it. The seller's son, who has a crush on her, secretly loads the feed into her truck. Ya-yoon's family faces financial difficulties, and her mother is suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Ya-yoon researches brain diseases and finds several doctors who specialize in them, hoping to find a way to cure her mother. Ya-yoon's best friend Myung-hee suggests that she audition for a national singing contest with a $500,000 prize. Although Ya-yoon has no singing ability, she passes the preliminary stage with the highest score. Her parents are proud of her but worried when they hear that she will have to perform a secret talent in the final round of the competition. Myung-hee assures them that everything will be fine. However, the parents become more concerned when they receive a mysterious phone call. Before going to bed, Ya-yoon reassures her frightened mother that everything will be all right and she won't abandon them. Later that night, while Myung-hee is having a sleepover, Ya-yoon experiences another intense headache that lasts longer than before. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi is keeping an eye on her from a distance since her identity has been revealed during the audition. The following day, they take a train to Seoul for the next round of auditions. During their journey, Myung-hee proposes to become Ya-yoon's manager if she becomes famous, offering to share profits equally. A young man sitting in front of them intervenes and claims to know Ya-yoon, but she doesn't remember him. He reveals that they were referred to by numbers and calls her Miss Witch, which confuses her even more. When he tries to slap her, Myung-hee screams, but no one else on the train seems to care. As the young man walks away, he collides with someone and insults him. The other person tries to retaliate but is no match for the young man's strength. He eliminates him and throws the corpse off the train. Upon arriving at the studio, Ya-yoon impresses the judges with her outstanding performance, earning her a spot in the quarterfinals. However, as soon as they leave the studio, Ya-yoon experiences another severe headache, which causes a nosebleed. It turns out that a doctor previously told her that the headache would kill her within 2–3 months, and only a bone marrow transplant from her biological parents could save her. Meanwhile, Dr. Beak, who had created Ya-yoon, is thrilled to see her on television and still alive. He sends his men to kidnap her and Myung-hee, but they manage to escape with the help of a group of children. When they return home, they cannot find Officer Do, who was supposed to give them a ride. Suddenly, the young man appears and threatens to kill Myung-hee's parents. Ya-yoon rushes to her house, while Myung-hee calls for help. Fortunately, Officer Do, who happens to be Myung-hee's father, arrives in time and confronts the young man. Ya-yoon uses her powers to track down the old men who flee in panic to a house where they find their fathers playing chess. Before leaving, Officer Do informs Ya-yoon that the young man and his friends are Americans, but Ya-yoon denies any knowledge of them. Meanwhile, the young man and his group confront a professor in his laboratory who refused to cooperate with Dr. Beak, leading to his demise. The young man displays his ability to control minds and use a gun without touching it before setting fire to the laboratory. The next day, Dr. Beak advises Mr. Choi to take a break in Europe and warns him not to interfere with her business again. He disagrees but has to comply with his superior's orders. Mr. Choi cautions Dr. Beak that Ya-yoon is a monster who needs to be eliminated, but Dr. Beak is unwilling to do so. Later, Mr. Choi meets a professor who can cure his illness, but he has to kill Ya-yoon and bring her head to the professor in exchange. During dinner, Ya-yoon's family expresses their concern for her mother, who has severe dementia and cannot recognize her daughter anymore. At night, Ya-yoon wakes up in agony with a severe headache. Dr. Beak's men threaten Ya-yoon's mom with a gun, and she is taken hostage. Ya-yoon realizes what is happening and begins to fight back, eliminating Dr. Beak's men one by one ruthlessly. The young man shows up and reveals Ya-yoon's special abilities to her, and she slowly starts to remember her past. Mr. Choi assembles his field agents to assassinate Ya-yoon, but she was aware of their plan and had already prepared for it. They arrive at an abandoned laboratory where Dr. Beak is waiting for them, and Ya-yoon is taken to an interrogation room where she is tied to a chair. Dr. Beak welcomes her and begins to make her remember her past. Dr. Beak instructs his subordinate to administer a liquid to Ya-yoon, who was one of the subjects in a brain experiment that he oversaw. Dr. Beak praises Ya-yoon's exceptional talent, stating that she is the best brain specialist in the world and that she was one of his most successful products. To enhance her abilities further, Ya-yoon underwent rigorous training to become a cold-blooded killing machine. Ya-yoon's behavior changes significantly after the injection, revealing that she was never an amnesiac and had been pretending to be so in order to get to the professor. She breaks free and eliminates the man in the interrogation room. Dr. Beak attempts to immobilize her with nerve gas, but she escapes through the ceiling and confronts the professor. Ya-yoon shoots the professor's leg and forces her to reveal the location of the serums. The young man, who realizes that he was deceived, rushes to the room, but Mr. Choi and his men arrive and begin shooting. The young girl intervenes and eliminates Mr. Choi's remaining men with her knives. The young man challenges Ya-yoon to a duel, but she defeats him effortlessly. Dr. Beak tries to escape, but Ya-yoon shoots her in the leg. Mr. Choi shoots Ya-yoon, but she outmatches him and kills him easily. She urges the young man to reveal the location of the research facility, but he refuses. So she shoots him. Ya-yoon burns down the laboratory and hands over the serums to her father, who uses them to slow down her mother's dementia. 3 months later, she appears at Dr. Beak's sister's house and demands a more permanent serum from her.